All right, hello everyone. This is like my 400th try, but I'm pretty sure that this time it's actually going to work. So the problems we're going to focus on, and I'll go as quickly as possible because I know it's super late. Problems we're going to focus on are right here. These all got at least 2 votes. Anything that got 1 vote or no votes but was mentioned in comments, feel free to come in like 8 to 8:10 tomorrow. And I can just try to rapid fire explain anything you need. So some people were asking about function notation, and just as like a quick example, like I don't know what you mean by that because like in my mind, that is the same thing as y equals 2x plus 3, and like that's function notation. If you're asking about like plugging in 5 or something or doing average rates of change, like those are different conversations, but like there were certain things that were mentioned in emails or comments where I just genuinely didn't know what you were asking. So feel free to pop in tomorrow morning and I will answer as fast as I can. Okay, without further ado, 10A, I am a goat collector. I think the part of this that was most complicated for people is the every 2 days, 3 goats run away for a couple of reasons. Reason number one is building that out mathematically is a little strange, where I've got a starting value of 4650 for goats, like positive 4650, but then I lose 3 goats every 2 days. And so losing 3 goats, like if I just wrote it like this, losing 3 goats every day would be -3 or -3D. So that's losing 3 goats a day. The problem is I lose 3 goats every 2 days. So I lose goats half that fast. So I need to cut that rate of change in half. And that's kind of what the end result was. I think the part of that that ends up being more complicated is people that look a little closer and they're like, wait a minute, why is it that you're losing 1.5 goats per day? That doesn't make any sense. And I agree with you. In these situations where we're talking about real life situations, these are models. So this is like ballparking an event that's happening. Otherwise, odd numbers in general and negative numbers in general, like a lot of things just don't work here. So when we're building out this graph and it's going downhill like this, it's not that at 1.7 days or something that we have, 4,648.2 goats or something. Like all of these decimals and negatives and stuff, like they don't make sense. And I understand that. But when we're building an equation to model something, we're modeling it. We're building a ballpark so that if we project into the future, we can get close. Maybe our model will tell us that after 100 days, there's, 4,500 goats, when really there are 4,502 in real life, but we're just trying to build a model. So, anyway, oh my gosh, which one's the eraser? Please be the eraser. Yes. Clutch eraser. Okay, so anyway, in terms of the actual how to do it so that everybody can get all the points, when it says create an equation, just be careful on capitalizations versus lowercase and on using the right variables. So my number of goats is decreasing by 3, so -3, every 2 days. So all of the sets of 2 days, I lose 3 goats. That is per day, and I start with 4650. So at a basic level, if I have $300, let's just use y equals for my amount of money and plus 100 for my starting value. If I make $1,200 every 2 weeks, how much is that every week? Well, that's $600 a week because $1,200 every 2 weeks could be simplified down to $600 a week. What I would encourage you to do is try the next 3 on your own, with this one kind of being like the challenge check of can you handle the way in which I would ask this question on a quiz or something. So pause, 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 do the problems, give it a shot, and now here's your answers. Okay, so for the next one, I have $100 and I make 1,200 every 3 days. If you simplified that to 400x plus 100, that's amazing, but I just want to show that $1,200 every 3 days is splitting that $1,200 every 3 weeks is splitting that $1,200 into 3 weeks instead of 1 week. So that even when it's over 7 weeks, that cutting it into these 7 pieces can still work, and we can still build the equation like this. Now, if you divide this out, you're going to get like, it's going to be nonsense. It's going to be 100 and 57.1428, blah, blah, blah. It's going to keep going. And so, again, just like with the goats, it doesn't really make sense in a real life scenario. You can't make 157 point dollars. It's going to get rounded. But the reality is, this can still be our model where it's helping us ballpark the amount of money I have after however many weeks. That, or I get paid every 7 weeks for some reason and I make 1,200 bucks, whatever. For the last one, this is kind of again like your challenge check. I have 600 dogs. So my number of dogs starts at 600. And then what happens to it? Every 3 weeks, someone comes to adopt a dog. So that means every 3 weeks, I lose one dog. So I would have -1 per week, but that's cut into 3 pieces because I need 3 weeks. So every 3 weeks, I lose one dog would be -1/3. So this is kind of where I would like people to be. If you have further questions on that, obviously pop in at 8 o'clock and I can answer as fast as possible. For the second one, I think my answer key answer is harder than this problem has to be. The reality is, if it's 52 songs, what you need to know is that the first song is $1.29. And then after that, there's 51 songs where they're charged 99 cents each. And you just have to check, does that equal 52.77? And spoiler alert, it does not. Because what they ended up doing to get the 52.77 is they did this. Well, think about what this would mean. This would mean that you have an initial fee of $129 for nothing, and then you have to buy 52 songs at 99 cents each. Well, that doesn't make any sense because the one song is bought at the full price of $129. Well, you don't have to buy 52 more songs. You only have to buy 51 more songs because your first song was bought at $129. So for anybody that didn't look, the way in which I wrote this on the answer key was something like this. It would be 0.99 times the number of songs minus 1 plus the 129, and this would be the cost. So the reason I wrote it like this is I knew if you were buying 52 songs, your first song you pay that, and then for 51 songs, 52 minus the 1, you pay 99 cents each. That's why I built it like this, is because then if it was like, all right, how much would you pay for 100 songs? Then there's my first song, and this would give me 99 more songs, 100 minus 1, at 99 cents each. So I'm just saying that the first song cost this 129, and then we need one song to be taken off the total number of songs because it's already accounted for right there. Because we don't also have to pay 99 cents for a song that we already bought for 129. That would be criminal. So again, pause the video, use these as a check to see if you're kind of where you need to be. And I'll do it kind of like the theoretical mathy way, and I'll do it kind of like a ragtaggier, the way I would expect your brain to kind of handle it on a test or something. Okay. I'm starting a gym membership, and I pledge to be if I pledge to be a long-term member, I get the first 2 months free. After that, the cost is $60 a month, and there's an initial fee of $100 to sign up. So let me call T the total cost, and M is the number of membership months. So like the theoretical mathy way would say this. It would say, I pay $60 a month, not for any number of months, but for M minus 2 months. Because those first 2 months, I do not have to pay $60 a month. Those 2 months are free. I also have to pay $100 as an initial sign-on fee, and so that is the total cost of my membership. That is how like the clean mathy way, like if I was giving you a multiple choice question, like maybe this would be the answer on like which equation can be used to model your total cost. That's what it would be. The way I would kind of expect you guys to think about this is more like this. $60 a month plus the $100 initial sign-on bonus. And then it's like, okay, now it's a different kind of problem. I have to figure out, how do I account for 2 months free? Well, 2 months counts as $120 at $60 a month. So if I just take that $120 off, then this works too. And if you go back in time and look at like the theoretical mathy one that I had, if you distribute out the 60 and solve, it gives you this exact same membership or this exact same equation. So saying the total cost is 60 times the number of months minus $20 because you pay $100 as an initial sign-on fee, but you save 120 on those first 2 months being free, that would give you the same result. So I would encourage you to think of it this way as just kind of like a, how do I make this all work, rather than a, oh crap, how did Mr. Ryder teach me to do this? And again, this is the kind of thing I would ask you. And this leads into the next problem where the units are changing. If I give you a time frame like 3 years and you plug in 3, that's not going to work because you're not paying 3 months and M is the number of months. Instead, you're paying 36 months here because 3 years is 36 months. So then you'd say 60 times the number of months. I'll combine those like terms, be minus 20. And that's what? 2160, so 2140. $2,100 for gym membership for 3 years. You'd be so jacked at the end of that. But just a matter of making sure that the units match before you combine things together. Speaking of which, there are 2 things about this that I think could be challenging. I'm not sure which of the 2 reasons people had for suggesting it, but here are kind of the 2 things that I think could be complicated. Thing number 1, I'll start over here on the right, is the units. It's got 3 feet tall, 4 feet tall, 15 inches, 10 inches. If you just wrote that a tree is 3 feet tall and grows 15 inches a year, after 1 year, you have an 18 tall tree. But is that 18 feet or is that 18 inches? Because it's 18 of neither of those things. So instead, making sure that units match before you start combining them is a really, I want to say a good approach, but it's like the only approach. So then your 2 approaches are this. You can either turn it into feet or you can turn it into inches. I always suggest putting it into the smaller unit, so like inches compared to feet. Here's why. If a rectangle is 4 feet long and 30 inches wide, your 2 approaches are this. You can either multiply the feet to turn them into inches, and you'd have 48 inches for the length, or you can divide the width by 12. That's a 30, not a 36. You could divide the width by 12 to get 2.5 feet. And while 2.5 feet isn't that bad, I would make the argument that it's normally better to multiply than to divide because it helps you maintain nice numbers. Like you're going to maintain integers far more often. So I almost always choose to use the smaller of the 2 units. So here I would do times 12 and I would get 48 inches. And I'd say, okay, the top is 48 inches, the bottom's 48 inches, the width is 30 inches, the width is 30 inches. Add it all together and you get 158 inches. And so that would be my perimeter. However, attention to detail, it does say write and solve an equation. So I would say something like 2 times the length plus 2 times the width equals the perimeter. I would say let P equal the perimeter of the rectangle in inches, blah, 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 and then I would solve for 158. That is one way that I could see somebody having trouble with this problem. Here's the other way I could see someone having trouble with it, is knowing that when you want to know how long until 2 things are the same, the best way to know when 2 things are going to be equal is to say they're equal to each other and then to solve for when that's going to happen. So in this problem, it was 3 feet, I'm calling it 36 inches, plus 15 inches per year. And the other one was 4 feet, 48 inches, plus 10 inches per year. Dude, all my 10s look like 6s. And so if I want to know when are these 2 trees going to be equal to each other, the fastest way to do that is to say tree A's height and tree B's height are equal. And then you just solve that problem out and it'll tell you when they're equal. So similarly, again, pause, try it, make sure that you get this right. If I have $500 and make $200 every 3 days, OMG, in homage to the first problem, I have $500 and make $200 every 3 days. So here's me and my money. Yes, I should have let X be the number of days passed or something. Here is my money. Me, my money. The reason it's such an elaborate thing and it's got multiple terms is because my amount of money is changing. It's not just that I have $500. If I had $500, it would just say 500. But I have a changing amount of money, so it has to be this more elaborate expression. You have $1,000, congratulations. And you make $100 every 6 days. Now we have my money and we have your money. So if I want to know how long until we have the same amount of money, say that those equations equal each other. And when you say those equations equal each other, we're now in a position where we can solve for when that happens. And I know it'll happen because you start with more money, but I make money faster than you. I make 66 point blah, blah, blah per day, 6, 7. And then you make 13.3 repeating. So eventually I'm going to catch you because I just make money faster than you. So then I would multiply everything by 6, and I would get 400x plus 3,000 equals 100x plus 6,000. I'd move my variables 2 to left. I'd move my constants 2 to right. I divide, and I would get 100. And so after 100 days, does that feel right? After 100 days, we have the same amount of money. I'm not sure if it feels right, so I'm going to plug it in and check because I really don't feel like making an error in this. So plugging it up here, that'd be 20,000 over 3 plus 500 equals 10,000 over 6 plus 1,000. So then that's, oh, that is massive. Wait a minute. Something's going weird. What did I do wrong? You know what? I'm going to commit and trust my math. If I did something wrong, first person to correct me gets candy and a bonus point. But I'm pretty sure I did nothing wrong. So x equals 100 days. Moving over here, write the equation of a line to fill the following information. This was definitely the most requested problem, and I think it's because I threw a lot of different stuff at you. The reason I tried to throw a lot of stuff at you here is because these are like weird graphing problems. You should not expect to see like one of these and one of these and one of these. That would be craziness. You should expect to see one weird graphing problem where you have some information and you have to find out some other stuff. So firstly, this kind of question, this first one, should be cake. You will get the point slope formula. When you have the point slope formula, this is quite literally just a matter of fill in the blank. This is like you're in kindergarten and you see the square hole and you put the square block in the square hole. You see the m, you put the slope there. You see the x1, you put the x value there. You see y1 and you put the y value there. And you're literally done. That is the end of the problem. I encourage you to take the second to do those two problems now because they're in the same vein of information. Okay, for the next one. The way in which we usually did these problems, and this was more applicable to the last page where I would give you 2 points, like 2, 7, and 4, 8. And I would say write the equation of the line that passes through the 2 points. And what I like to do is put the 2 points in a table and follow the pattern. It's rising 1, the y's are the rise. It's rising 1 and running 2. So we have 1/2 x. And then if you continue backwards, you can find that the x value of 0 pairs with a y value of 6, meaning that the point 0, 6, or a y-intercept of 6, is on the line. I'm going to do this problem the same way. It's just going to feel a little different because it doesn't look like we have 2 points, but really we do. So instead of the 2 points being given to you quite literally like 2, 7, and 4, 8, I gave you like secret points. I gave you 0, 5, and I gave you 8, 0. Because just like the y-intercept happens when the x value is 0, the x-intercept happens when the y value is 0. Because on any point on this x-axis, there's no height to the point. It doesn't go up or down at all. It's got a y value of 0. So now that we've got 0, 5, and 8, 0, we are rising -5. We are running +8. And we have a y-intercept built in right for us of 5. And that would be the end of the equation. The only thing you really need to take from that is that just like the y-intercept has an x value of 0, the x-intercept has a y value of 0. And that's helpful information. For the third one, this one is more a matter of do you understand what an undefined slope means? And what an undefined slope means is that there is no rise over run to the graph. And specifically, I'm not saying no rise over run like the rise over run is 0. This line, this horizontal line here, that would have a slope of 0. Because any 2 points I pick on the line, if I did rise over run between them, I would get a rise of 0 and a run of like, I don't know, 4 or something. Whatever distance you want to call that, I'll call it 4. 0 over 4 is 0. If you want to call that run 3, go for it. 0 over 3 is still 0. So a horizontal line has a slope of 0. I repeat, a horizontal line has a slope of 0. But a vertical line has a very different situation. A vertical line has a rise over run of something like 4 over 0. If you type that into the calculator, you're going to get a divide by 0 error. And really, that slope is infinity. That's the reason you can't divide by 0 is because infinity isn't a number, it's an idea. And so instead of having these nice y equals equations, like y equals mx plus b, or y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, or y equals a number, like y equals 3 would be a horizontal line through 3. Instead, all of that stuff gets broken because the slope is broken. There's no y-intercept. There's no slope because the slope is undefined. So if I tell you that the slope is undefined, that means I'm talking about a vertical line. And when you have a vertical line, the equation of the line becomes x equals. Because the only thing that we know about the pattern of the line is that all the x values stay the same. As you increase here, maybe this point right here is 5, 0. This point up here, whether it's 5, 2, 5, 3, or 5, 4, I know it's 5 something. This point down here, I know it's 5, -4 or something, but I know the x value is 5. So a vertical line passing through 5 on the x-axis is written as x equals 5. That's the equation of the line. So if we have an x-intercept of 7 and a slope that is undefined, the equation of that is x equals 7. It's a vertical line making the slope undefined. So horizontal lines are y equals equations, and those have no slope, like x equals 0, not x equals 0, a slope of 0. Horizontal line, slope of 0. Vertical line, slope is undefined. Okay, so now give these a shot down here. This first one is as simple as plugging into point slope form. Plug in the y1, plug in the slope, and plug in, oh no, please don't glitch out of me again. And plug in the x value, and there's your equation. Same deal with the next one, y minus 4 equals -1 times x minus 7. Again, you will get this formula on the test. It is called point slope form, meaning you only need a point in the slope, which is the case in these first two problems. Next, I'm going to go over here to the right. A horizontal line has a slope of 0. So even if you wanted to go in point slope form, you could totally do that. If you wanted to write it like that, you are more than welcome to. However, I would argue that 0 times x is 0 and 0 times -5 is 0. So this could more simply be written as y plus 3 equals 0, or even more simply as just y equals -3. And if you think about it, that kind of makes sense. Because if the point 5, -3 is on the graph, a horizontal line is going to hit at -3, because that's how far down the point is. So y equals -3. Similarly, a vertical line passing through 5, 3, 5, -3, excuse me, is going to have an x-intercept of 5, and it's a vertical line, so it's an x equals equation, and it's x equals 5. Lastly, two ways you could do this problem, because this requires a little bit of problem solving. If you said, Mr. Ryder, we've never learned that before, you absolutely have not. I totally agree with you. However, you should all get it right, because we've graphed a million equations like this. I would do minus 2x from both sides. I would divide by the 3, and I would have this nice, very graphable equation where I could just scroll through the table and find the intercepts. Y-intercept is 4, and x-intercept is down 2 over 3, down 2 over 3. Uh-oh. Oh, please don't glitch out. Okay, let's just pray and be fast. X-intercept of 6. Other way you could do it, y-intercepts have an x value of 0. So you could say, oh, I know if it's the y-intercept that the x value is 0. Speed. The x value is 0 for the y-intercept. Y-int. X value 0. So then 3y is 12 because 2 times 0 is 0. So then the y-intercept is 4. And then you could do the same thing for the x-intercept. You could be like, oh, I know for the x-intercept that the y value is 0. That is 0. So then you just divide by 2. And the x value is 6. Okay. Hopefully this was helpful. Again, please feel free to come in tomorrow morning and ask questions. I'm really sorry this is getting posted so late. You guys are going to all do awesome tomorrow. Like, genuinely, you will. I'm looking forward to seeing them. Good luck. See you in the morning. Bye, guys.